less stall, more ball, fewer infractions. This begins in 2020. The future is near. More access, more everyone, more everything. This is
2019, show number 12.
This is history begun. This is the XFL.
What is up, my friends? Welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I'm your host, The Mark, and on this week's show, a full Mondo recap of the Xfl TV deal. Wow, we'll get into that. Winston Moss is your new head coach of the XFL LA Los Angeles franchise, and we'll get into this whole Elevate Sports Ventures and so much more. So how do you get in touch with the show? You email podcast@xflnewshub.com with your MP3s or your thoughts, or you can hit us up on the Twitters at hashtag XFLWIR, XFL Week in Review. Cutoff time is 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. Remember to leave us a review on iTunes and we'll read it on the show. And welcome all our new listeners. We had a ton of downloads last week. Really excited to have a whole batch of new fans coming in and checking out the show. So why don't we all just sit here for a moment, and why don't you leave us a little 5-star review on iTunes for you? We'll wait for you. We'll wait. We're holding on. Take your time. It takes like 5 clicks. Not a big deal. XFL. Do you need me to spell XFL for you? Do you need me to spell week? W-E-E-K. Do you need me to spell XFL? If you need me to spell XFL, I don't think I want you to listen to this show. As a matter of fact, I don't want you to listen to anything. You really need to go to the library or something. Okay. All right, good. Thanks for leaving us a review on the show. Question of the week, we get into what is your XFL team and where are you from? A lot of reaction to this because I'm really curious. We have 8 markets and 50 states. So why are you going to be a fan of a certain team, the franchise? So I'm really interested in kind of diving into that. Next week's show's question is, what do you think of the Xfl TV deal, good or bad? Some people were like, it's not that good. Like, listen, if you think that this TV deal, that like, if you're one of these jabrones that leaves a message that's like, well, the XFL should have their games on a Lifetime network. This is ridiculous. This is dumb. Like, you don't even, again, you also probably can't spell XFL, and you also need to go to the library and pick up some books. But I want to hear your thoughts, and maybe you have some good thoughts on why it was potentially bad. I don't really know what it is. We'll get into all that into the show, but I really want to hear your thoughts this week as well. So you can hit us up on the tweets, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, emails, phone calls. We got all sorts of stuff to get into, but without further ado, folks, let's just get into the week that was XFL.
You know, as we sit around our office, we often talk about what the X in XFL means. We think it stands for exciting. We think it stands for excellent. We think it stands for extraordinary. But when I think of Winston Moss, I think of the word exuberant. And so it is with great pride that I introduce the head coach and general manager of your XFL team in Los Angeles, a former Raider. Please join me in welcoming Winston Moss.
First, I want to give God all the praise and the glory for this moment. I want to thank my wife, Soila. We're back in L.A., baby. We're back in L.A. I want to thank all of you for coming out here to downtown L.A. live in order to receive this press conference. I want to thank Oliver for those kind words. We think that with Heather and Oliver and with our fellow coaches, we're going to put an exciting brand of football together. Except that Coach Hayes. Coach Hayes held me every single down when we played back in the day with the Raiders and the Chiefs. And so I look forward to hearing his comments after this and on that conference call tomorrow. He might have some choice words to me. But nevertheless, I want to give a big shout out for Vince McMahon for having the courage and the vision to take this XFL on. And I am honored to take that next step the rebirth of the XFL. I'm blessed to be in LA. I'm going to say it again. I am blessed to be in LA. LA stands for excellence. I'm going to say that again. LA stands for excellence. And so, to my mom and pops back home, I love you. To the Moss clan, all of you from around, all over the place, thank you. And I want to thank you guys again for coming out. Thank you very much.
So there you have it, Winston Moss. And I remember his name from back in the NFL days. So Moss played 10 years in the NFL as a linebacker from 1987 to 1997. He was a second-round pick of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and later played for the Los Angeles Raiders and Seattle Seahawks. After his playing days, he went straight right into coaching in the NFL. He had coaching stops with the Seattle Seahawks and New Orleans Saints before landing a long-term role with Mike McCarthy and the Green Bay Packers, where he was a linebackers coach for 13 seasons. He was fired in December after the team let go head coach Mike McCarthy, who really, his name hasn't really popped up for XFL gigs, though I think he would be an NFL guy. Moss won a Super Bowl with the Packers in 2011 and contributed to the University of Miami's first football national championship in 1983. In 2015, he was inducted into the University of Miami Sports Hall of Fame. Now on to the press conference. Some interesting notes. Jeffrey Pollack opened up the press conference and he said there was 277 days until the first XFL game. Totally excited about that. Also said 5th XFL team president will be announced next week. So stay tuned for XFL News Hub for when that announcement's. And as more staff hirings, some behind the scenes hirings are coming soon as well. So he said to keep an eye out for that. Again, stay with XFL News Hub for that. Heather Brooks Carrots came out. She was great. Talked about how excited the fan base was. She mentioned fun fan game day and experience is very important. And I think we'll get into that with the whole Elevate Sports Ventures partnership. And I really think that has to do with that, which is really interesting. Of course, wants to build a fan base. And I was really impressed. Then she turned around and gave her speech in Spanish. I thought that was pretty hardcore. Then Oliver Luck came out. And then, of course, talking about the massive XFL TV deal, the schedule, and, of course, Winston Moss background. Winston Moss is now your XFL LA head coach and GM. We only got one left, folks. That is Houston. And then we got our coaches. We got our TV deal. We got our schedule, sort of, and our coaches. So a full review of the XFL 2020 television schedule. Everything came out. Let's go into what the schedule is. So week 1 is February 8th. Basically what happens is Saturdays and Sundays. Saturday, 2 p.m. on ABC, 5 p.m. Eastern. This is all Eastern times on Fox. Then Sunday, February 9th, 2 p.m. Fox and 5 p.m. on ESPN. If you look at the weeks, it fluctuates a little bit on Sundays. You're just going to have to check out the schedule. It's on xflnewshub.com. Some interesting tidbits. Of course, we got the first inaugural game will be on ABC with the following game at 5 p.m. on Fox Sunday. It'll be the 2 p.m. Will be another game on Fox followed by a game on ESPN. So Fox, ABC, ESPN, Fox Sports 1. That's your television where you can find the XFL. That is a blockbuster announcement. This is on regular television all the time, not the NFL Network, not BR Live, which they didn't even have any of the Spring League games on. This is huge. I don't understand how you can't pretty much get any better than this, aside from ABC and CBS maybe, that you can get any better than this blockbuster of a lineup. Now, the Sunday games switch up throughout the season, and unlike the AAF, most people have these channels, and they're easy to find, something that XFL CEO Oliver Luck has stressed the importance of during recent interviews. Now, Week 9 will be our first Thursday night matchup at 8 p.m. on Fox. This will be the XFL's first primetime game, and one would assume there's some flex scheduling involved, meaning that the top matchup of the week will be on primetime rather than having a game already scheduled, just like the NFL does. The matchup would be important for ratings. You don't want to see two bad teams, clearly. So I would assume that those are subject to change, and it says that on the list. But this is a chance for the XFL to get prime time, not prime time on CBS Sports 1 or CBS Sports or Lifetime Network or TNT. We're talking Sunday, Thursday night, 8 p.m. on Fox. Now, granted, the cable world is so fractured. There's cord cutting and everything else going on. That was when the Cosby Show. If you remember, if you're all in your 40s and 50s and maybe in your 30s, you remember the Cosby Show or Seinfeld. That was Thursday, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. That is prime time, the number one slot, and Fox has put the XFL in prime time, leading up to the playoffs, which is great. So week 9 and 10 Sunday games are a little bit more spread out and earlier. Sunday games will be at noon and 6 or noon at 3, depending on the day, because I would assume that they want more. There's playoff implications. Other things are going on. Also, what's interesting to note is week 9 of April 5th, 2020 is also WrestleMania 36. So XFL playoff implications and WrestleMania weekend are at the same time. Now, one playoff game on Saturday, April 18th will be on Fox, and then one on Sunday, April 19th on ESPN. Both would get good ratings. And then our final championship game, Sunday, April 26th at 3 p.m., which is also the day after the NFL draft is over. So that you're talking fans are all about gearing up for the NFL draft. NFL draft is done, and now they have the XFL championship. I think it's great. I think it works out. I think they knocked it out of the park. Now, some questions still remain. Of course, when will the team names and logos be announced? We're predicting in June timeframe. When will the team schedules be released? We want to know that. When is the certain team, when is DC going to play LA? That whole thing. Where will the championship game be played? I mean, are we going to be playing this in New York? Are we going to play this in DC? Are we going to play it in Hawaii? And what will the championship game be called? Is it just going to be the XFL championship? Is it going to be the McMahon Bowl? Like, what are we going to talk about? The Oliver Luck Bowl? But if you want to check all the details, head over to xflnewshub.com. Now, if we dive in a little bit deeper and the nitty-gritty of the XFL TV deal, John Oran of Sports Business Daily got into some more detail on the XFL TV deal. Talks about game announcers, streaming rights, and some other stuff. So XFL execs believe that their best chance of success is having games in front of the biggest possible TV audience. Hence, you have the deal that you have now. 24 of the XFL's 43 games will be on broadcast television. The networks are not paying a rights fee. This deal is not like the NFL's TV deals. So what that means is, like right now, NBC or Amazon pays billions of dollars to have the rights to air NFL TV. The XFL is new, and if you think that they would get some kind of deal without ever even taking a snap, you're crazy. There is no paying the rights, at least for now. If this thing succeeds and is halfway decent, there could be a bidding war later down the road. Now, ESPN and Fox are picking up the production cost of games, which runs roughly about $400,000 per game. So ESPN and Fox said, okay, well, we're doing no rights fee, but we'll put in the $400,000 for the production of the games, and then I'm sure they split ad revenue and whatever else needs to. Now, ESPN will televise the championship game, which will be one day on April 26th, one day after the NFL draft. The XFL will handle sponsorships at the venues. That's where some of the ticket partners come in. ESPN and Fox will hold streaming rights to XFL games. So if you're a cord cutter, like myself, and you want to watch these games later, you can, as long as you have the ESPN app or the Fox app, I assume that you'll be able to watch these games potentially live, if not definitely replays. Now, it would be nice to have one XFL network like the WWE network where we could watch these things like the NFL network. I would assume, hey, let's wait and see how this plays out, but that could be a possibility too. The ABC and Fox networks will cross-promote games during their broadcast, which is a good. And all four networks will be picking their own game announcers. So it's up to them. It's free reign. Are we going to see NFL guys cross over into XFL guys, or XFL is going to have their own guys? It'd be really interesting to see who is part of the broadcast and game announcers, which is another fun thing that we get looked forward to down the road. Now, they also mentioned that there was lots of lessons learned from the failed AAF, which helped them as part of this deal. One thing to take note, Burke Magnus, ESPN Executive VP of Programming and Scheduling, told Orand, quote, "Spring football is going to work. The combination of Vince McMahon, WWE, Fox, and Disney is an incredible one to take a really hard run at this and see if that's not the combination that finally makes it work." Now, Fox and ESPN are heavily partnered with the NFL. A successful XFL launch could impact TV negotiations with the NFL in the future. The NFL for sure will be watching how this all plays out. This deal also benefits the networks in case there is an NFL lockout in 2021, which there's rumblings about. Fans will still want their football, and the XFL and the TV networks could deliver it. Remember, Burt Magnus, spring football is going to work. They think that, and people have tried and failed, but they think they have the combination to make spring football work for the long term. Oliver Luck, Vince's money, network partnerships. It's looking good, folks. It's looking good. Jim Zorn announced the first addition to his XFL Seattle coaching staff this past week by naming Clayton Lopez as defensive coordinator. Lopez last worked as the defensive backs coach for the Oakland Raiders in 2013. From 1999 to 2003, he was assistant coach with the Seattle Seahawks. He was defensive backs coach for the Raiders from 04 to 05, then the same title in 06 to 08 with the Detroit Lions. From 09 to 2011, he was defensive backs / cornerbacks coach for the St. Louis Rams. He was last seen coaching in the Cayman Flag football national team in 2016. He's only 48 years old, so this will be his first shot as a defensive coordinator. And he's a graduate of University of Nevada, where he played defensive back from 1991 to 1994. According to Buffalo Bills beat writer Matthew Fairburn, Gerald Dixon is leaving his position as pro scout with the Buffalo Bills and headed to the XFL. Dixon worked for Senior Vice President of Football Operations of the XFL, Doug Whaley. Whaley is the former general manager of the Buffalo Bills. Dixon spent the past 4 years as a pro scout with the Bills. Before that, he was assistant and cornerbacks coach at the Citadel. He was a starter for all 4 years at the University of Alabama, with a brief stint in the 2004 with the Bills and Detroit Lions. Dixon later went on to play in NFL Europe and spent 2 seasons in the CFL with the Edmonton Eskimos. Again, a good background to have him. Not sure what his official title yet, but it's safe to assume that he'll be working closely with Doug Whaley. The XFL has partnered with Elevate Sports Ventures. They are an upfront strategic planning, sponsorship sales, and project management and premium ticket sales company. Elevate is owned by Ticketmaster / Live Nation, among other entities. Elevate will be in charge of selling season tickets and premium seats for the upcoming 2020 XFL season. The XFL's deal with Elevate Sports is for 2 years. Al Guido, Elevate's co-managing partner and CEO, knows XFL president Jeffrey Pollack from his 2 years as the Chargers' chief marketing and strategy officer. Guido has also had a relationship with WWE's Vince McMahon, going back to Levi's Stadium hosting WrestleMania in 2015. You see, Al Guido is also the president of the San Francisco 49ers. Elevate will employ around 50 sales representatives, some stationed at XFL headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut, home of the WWE. Most of the staff will work for the XFL's 8 teams in Dallas, Houston, LA, New York, St. Louis, Seattle, Tampa, and the District of Columbia, Guido had said. America's team, XFL DC. Elevate Sports Venture will be working closely with newly hired Senior Vice President of Team Business Operations, Derek Thornburg. He was most recently the Vice President of Customer Insight Engagement at the Pacers Sports and Entertainment. Thornburg will be in charge of the ticket operations at XFL headquarters. Over the next 90 days, the XFL is expected to announce it's got television partner schedules, ticket sales, logos, and so much more. Their ticket sell campaigns. Elevate Sports came into the game. They are really going to be focused on, which will soon be me, XFL season ticket holders. One vibe that I've been getting from all the coverage and reading and listening to all these guys talk about is like they're really focused on the season ticket holder and the in-game experience. Now, Oliver Luck has a lot of experience with that when he was at NFL Europe, having successfully managed one of the, I think it was Frankfurt, Germany franchise. Apparently, Frankfurt, Germany franchise was the only profitable franchise in the NFL Europe, and that's why Oliver Luck he was the president of that franchise and then became president in charge of the NFL Europe because he was the only one that could make it work. He knows how to get that fan base fired up. We've heard Heather Brooks Kratz talk about it. We've heard Jeffrey Pollack talk about it. Now you have Elevate Sports Ventures, who specifically in their writing markup talk about sales representative working the season ticket and really making the fan experience great. All right, we got your emails and social media messages. So much to get to. We'll be right back, so don't go anywhere. There is only one place that you can get all your XFL news. That is xflnewshub.com. We go all the way back from the beginning of time for the XFL all the way up to today's stuff, where you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube. All those locations to get all your XFL news. We are your number one source of XFL football news from now all the way until February 2020 kickoff. So stick with xflnewshub.com for all your latest information. Follow us on all the social medias. That's xflnewshub.com. Remember it. Write it down. xflnewshub.com. All right, we are back now onto the social media stuff. We go down. We got Yankikano _ Jr. talking about teams and where you're from. Says, my number one team is Houston. I live in Houston. My second team is New York. I was born in the Bronx. He also asks, any insight on who Houston's coach will be? All I have to tell you is this. I'm working that angle on potential names for the Houston XFL head coaching job. I will stay tuned to XFL News Hub. We have some rumored names that we are trying to confirm. So all I have to say is stay with XFL News Hub. I have a couple ideas, but I'm not telling. Because I don't want to be wrong. All right, on to Andy P43 says, how will they decide who goes first with the defensive? We was talking about the overtime shootout rule. How will they decide who goes first with the defense able to score? We could see a knee down, end of game. Also, only 4 on-field officials instead of 8 will be watching last 5 to 10 plays of the game. I'm sure they have all this figured out, Andy. Maybe I would assume it's a coin toss because that's still kind of an exciting piece of the game is a coin toss. We'll get more in the detail of the rules with the XFL as we get closer to the season, but I assume that we would start with a coin toss on that. But you bring up some interesting points about the XFL. If you didn't see this, they put out a little picture of a remote, and it had ABC Fox, and it was the XFL remote. Patrick Helper 81 says, I can watch 2 of the 4 channels, so I guess that's okay. I'm sure he's like a lot of other people that are going to have trouble. I mean, this is why. He probably couldn't watch any AAF games based on his television thing if he's a cord cutter, doesn't have cable. But now he can at least watch some, and every weekend. So that is good. But it just gives you an idea of the power of this TV deal compared to the AAFs. _ most woke. We asked our question, who is your XFL team and where are you from? He says Los Angeles Lions. Didn't know that name came out yet. But okay. Thanks for the messages there. On to the Facebooks. We were talking about Luck, Oliver Luck on Colin Kaepernick and Johnny Manziel. David says, if you sign Kaepernick, I won't be watching. He's out. Colin Kaepernick means he's out. About the XFL TV deal, went to the Facebook. Jeff says, pretty good schedule, except championship games should have been on a network for those that don't have cable or satellite. That would be like putting Super Bowl on cable channel. It's going to keep a lot of us from watching the championship game. If I can't watch the big game, what's the point of watching any of the season? And Robert says, Jeff, it will be on TV too. Yeah, that is a good point about it being on ESPN, that the championship game is on ESPN. Let me just tell you this, Jeff. This is fluid. If it's getting ratings and it's rocking and rolling, I wouldn't be surprised if they moved games to Fox or some other entity, figure something out. Like if this is hot commodity, they'll get it to more eyeballs. Just knowing the guys that are in charge. This is just the blueprint now. And maybe I'll even say this. This is the schedule for this year. If next year they're knocking it out of the park, there very well could be the championship game on Fox. So don't sour on it just yet. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. All right. On to our question of the week. We asked, who is your XFL team and where are you from? Because we want to know. Everybody's curious. I'm curious. We will go down the list. We'll start with Instagram. We won't go through everybody's, but I appreciate all the tons of feedback we got. Chavez 25 Anders says, I'm from Iowa, so I don't know which to root for. You will root for America's team, the XFL DC franchise. To be me, I'm rolling with Tampa Bay. Doesn't say where he's from. Later, Tyler 2017 Seattle for me, and in upstate New York. Interesting. So not going with the New York franchise, but going with Seattle. Unadad says, wherever Johnny Manziel goes, I live in Austin. Johnny Manziel fan. M Parrot 4791. It's between St. Louis and Los Angeles. I'll choose later in the year, LOL. That's kind of fun. Billy Big D Willis, XFL St. Louis for me. Tim _Ackerman says still hoping for XFL Boston Stranglers. I'm not sure that will fly with that one. Strong Island Superfan. Just throwing it out here. I wonder what he's going to pick for. XFL New York all the way from Long Island, New York. That's nice. I grew up on Long Island all the way out and towards the Hamptons, Shoreham area. Shoreham, Wading River, Port Jeff, Rocky Point, Riverhead area is where I grew up. My Strong Island fans. And TX Trip 17 says Dallas, Texas, and he's from Allen, Texas, so no shocker there. On the YouTubes, we got huge on YouTubes with our podcast. A lot of people checking us out on YouTube. Really appreciate that. Some of the people said, one thing we talked about was what we're going to call ourselves. And Tilt Brooks says, you just said it, the XFL Army. Is that the nickname for you fans of XFL News Hub? Is it the XFL Army? Is that our deal? We'll find out. I don't know. I'm not sold on it yet. If you have a good nickname for us, our fandom, because listen, we are the originators. We are the beginning. There was no, when we started, it was just Oliver Luck. There was no coaches. There was a logo, and there was Vince, and that was it. And we were the ones from the beginning of all the coaching hires, the Bob Stoops. We were there from the beginning. So what do we call ourselves? Like, we are the OG XFL OGs. But the XFL Army might be something. Ryan says he's from Miami, so got to go with the Tampa Bay team. RIP Apollos. So hard. That's tough. That's tough. I still feel for the AAF fan. King Black White says, I live in Huntsville, Alabama, but I'm from New York, so I'm going to go New York. R.W. Smith says, I live in California, be going for the LA team. I hope they don't screw up the name, logo, and uniforms. Might have to look elsewhere. Yeah, I'm really worried. They've been doing good so far. They really got to knock it out of the park with names. It's got to be cool. You're going to want to wear the stuff. Vince has a good team when it comes to those things, but we shall see. We're all with bated breath. R.W. Smith also says, good point about Manziel and Dallas. That would be must-see TV. Absolutely. You would knock it out of the park. Manziel and Dallas, You throw Kaepernick, and I know he's controversial, stick him in New York or LA, some big market, and then we could just let it go. We will let it rip. There's so much, and there's going to be guys that come out of nowhere that are going to be great too. I'm really excited to see all this play out. True American. Hey, I'm not going to lie with him. I'm not going to tell him he's not. He said, I'm from South Texas. I guess it would be a Houston fan. If the Dallas or Houston teams don't work out in those cities, one of them should relocate to San Antonio, where the people want pro football after the bitter AAF shutdown of our South San Antonio Commanders. Oh, I'm telling you, I feel bad, XFL, AAF fans. I feel bad. But you'll find a home in the XFL. I'm pretty sure we ain't going anywhere after 1 year. All right, on to the Facebook. Same question. Ronnie, Boston, Massachusetts. He's going New York. Are you allowed to do that? Ronnie, I think you need to take a step back. I don't know if you're allowed to do that. But yeah, what about Boston fans? Connecticut? Delaware? New Jersey? You could be DC. But Boston, like in a New York team? I didn't think that was allowed. Don't tell his family. Jason, what are the name of the teams? I don't know. Danny, XFL St. Louis, and I'm from O'Fallon. Paulo says XFL LA. I'm from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. All the way from Brazil. Steven, St. Louis. He's St. Jen. Jody, again, St. Louis. Bunch of St. Louis. Rick, Los Angeles. I'm from Los Angeles, but I'm waiting when they get an XFL Charlotte team. St. Louis, Texas. Chris says, I'm from Alabama with no team close to me. I'm going to start rooting for Tampa Bay and hope for an expansion in the South next year. Where's DC Love? Jamichael, XFL St. Louis from Kentucky. Keelan, St. Louis from Illinois. Hilario says both Texas teams. I guess you did. Don, DC from Columbia, Maryland. All right, finally. Some DC love. But who else would you root for if you're Maryland? AJ says, let's go Hitman. Oh, wait, I mean XFL in New York. Blake, Philly until one comes closer to me. There is no Philadelphia. There's no Philadelphia, guys. John says XFL Dallas, and I'm from Oklahoma. Nikki says, hail to the HTTR, so I'll stick in D.C. Los Angeles, Anaheim. Matthew, Seattle from Columbus, Ohio. Joe says, I live in Chicago. I don't have a team this time around, but you can pick one. Listen, the default team is America's team, XFL DC. I'm just making the choice for you now. Pep Hamilton, the mark, winning combination. If you don't have a team, your team is XFL DC. America's team, because it's in the nation's capital. I don't know about you Dallas fans, but what does the Cowboys have anything to do with anything about being America? They're Cowboys. There should be horses or something. America's team should be in the capital, and I've officially named XFL DC is America's team. Period. And a story. And if you don't have a team, that's your team now. I just told you what to do. Joe says, I live in Chicago. We don't have a team. Oh, I got him already. Tony says, right now I'm loosely thinking the DC team. Yes, because Pep, since he is a former Colts offensive coordinator, but also depends on the players. I'm from Central Indiana. No teams in Cincy, Indy, or Chicago, so I'm wide open. See, Tony breaks it down. Like if you don't have a team, and granted, then you got the coach part. Do you have an allegiance with any of the coaches? If not, then you'll trickle down to maybe some players. I'm really want to see some Ravens get on the XFL roster. So I'm I'm excited about reading about cuts come to the Ravens because I'm like, all right, who are these Ravens guys and are they going to play in the DC team? Jeremy says Wisconsin. He's just an XFL fan. And Matthew says Tampa Bay. B words. I don't think that's the team name. But again, a lot of people all over the place. It's great to see fans out there. I feel for you fans, but this is why they hit the big markets. You hit New York, you can get Boston, Philadelphia. Well, I mean, even DC, you get Philadelphia. You get Massachusetts and Delaware and all that area. You got Florida, you got Tampa Bay, so you hit all Florida. You got 2 Texas teams because football is huge there. That's a good rivalry building. Seattle is a good spot. You got to have LA. So there's some good spots in the mid. You got your St. Louis. I think we'll see expansion. I don't think you'll see expansion in year 1 or year 2, but I could see year 3 as they renegotiate things, and if things going well, we could add a team or 2. And I think that would be great, especially if they San Antonio. I don't know about you, but I think Alabama could get one. We will find out. All right, on to the emails we go. We get a lot of emails that people think that we are the XFL. Now, there's xfl.com, there's XFL News Hub, but they send us their stuff. So I figure they put a lot of work into it. We should read some of this stuff. So Floyd he says, Steven Johnson was a rising through the NCAA ranks, headed to the NFL, playing alongside Craig Madger, NFL, and David Mayo, NFL, as a true freshman at Texas State University. As he continued to excel through coaching changes, standing out as a player, a joyous occasion turned to tragedy. He and Haley Jones, a college football sports reporter, were expecting their child his senior year in the spring of 2018 while planning to graduate in December with a concrete engineering degree. A decision had to be made. At his pro day, he pulled his hamstring and wasn't able to maximize the performance afterwards. Haley told him that they were pregnant, and Steven decided to take a road less traveled by graduating first to secure the next 40 years, then go as an undrafted NFL free agent, play in the CFL or XFL. On September 20th, Jeremiah was born healthy and strong. Steven was full of excitement, eager to finish his test and go see his son. The day before he was scheduled to leave, he got a phone call that no parent wants to hear. Get here as fast as you can. The baby had to be rushed to the hospital. While flying to Denver, Jeremiah passed, and he never got to see his son alive. Yikes, that was tough. As his father, my focus was to keep him focused and grounded, also to keep him on track to graduate while the family were truly hurting. Now he's looking stronger and focused with healing in his heart and chip on his shoulder to conquer the tragedy that tried to take him out of the game he loves. The phone is beginning to ring from the CFL and XFL, so maybe he can get a backdoor into the NFL. Thought I needed to share it. Floyd, thank you for the message. I mean, this is the kind of thing, the Steven Johnson, we appreciate his dad shooting us the email. This is the kind of thing that the XFL is about, a chance at redemption. The guy has been through a lot. Let me tell you this, Steven, God always has a plan, and we don't understand it. We don't get it. That things happen in our lives. Everybody listening to this show can absolutely, I always think that there is always 3 major, tragic, horrible things that happen to all of us throughout our life. And what happens to us and how we change and how we grow from that is what makes us who we are, and that's how we grow. And we won't know, we don't understand until we float away into the sky and whatever. But now is your chance, and here is the XFL in front, and we will check and see if Steven Johnson is out there and makes an XFL squad. So we asked Floyd to definitely keep us in the loop, because now he has fans. All of us at the XFL Army are now Steven Johnson fans, and we are totally rooting for him. And we thank you. We pray for your family. They're going through a hard time, and we thank you for sending that message in. Wow, powerful stuff, which makes me so excited about the XFL, because it's a second chance for a lot of guys. And there's stories starting to bubble up about these guys getting a second chance at going for their dreams. And I can't wait to watch, and I know you guys can't wait either. So thanks for the message. Whew. Tom checking in says, I'm a huge Tampa fan, so any inside news for Tampa Bay would be awesome. Most of all, I want to say thank you for the updates. I already put down my season tickets. Nice. And check for news every day. Check out XFL News Hub. Can't wait. Thanks, Kyle S. checking in. Kyle, thank you for checking in with us at XFL News Hub. We got Tampa Bay. Nothing inside or yet I've heard anything about Tampa Bay. I'm telling you, I would like to say something, and maybe I will, I won't, but not on this show, about the Houston head coach job. Got some things out there trying to confirm, but we're trying to figure that out. But I have some insight about potential Houston coach. It's not Jeff Fisher, I'll tell you that. And but that's easy. But Tampa Bay, thanks for checking in, and we appreciate you checking out on XFL News Hub. Garen says, hey, Garen, he's with the Tulsa World Sports columnist here. We're very interested in chatting with Chris Woods about being Bob Stoops' pick as defensive coordinator. Can anyone help facilitate that phone interview? I always tell people, check xfl.com, not XFL News Hub. But hey, Tulsa World, if you get an interview, we would definitely absolutely like to post it on XFL News Hub. We appreciate that. Justin checking in. He says he's an agent for a potential player. Hello? We're just wondering what requirements a potential agent must have to represent an individual player. Again, check out XFL. There's an xfl.com FAQ page, and you can check that out. There, Matt checking in about the XFL start date. He said, big mistake starting XFL season February 8th. I live in D.C. I want to go to XFL games, but it is too damn cold in D.C. that early in the year. I thought about that too, my friend, but I've been to Ravens games in December. Now, it was cold, but we had fun. It was cold, but we had fun, and it'll be interesting because you're going to start in the cold, and it will get nicer as we move into March. But I hear you. I mean, you're talking February. We just got to get through February. It's not January. At the beginning of February, we'll be all right. XFL should start the season in late March or early April. If it conflicts with soccer season, then move it to another venue. For instance, in D.C. area, Northern Virginia would be glad to have an XFL team. It's only a matter of time before I start charging you for my great ideas. So take advantage of them while they are free. Oh, my goodness, Matt. We're going to have to start paying Matt soon. We'll see how it plays out. Moving it, but they just want to capital. They're going to always look to capitalize. And remember, you're talking DC. It's not this way in Tampa. It's not this way in, maybe it's in Seattle. St. Louis has a dome. New York, yeah. DC, yeah. Tampa, don't matter. Texas, don't matter. St. Louis, don't matter. Seattle, I think it's a retractable dome, isn't it? And LA, don't matter. So it's really just us and New York that have to deal with it. But if your first game is in LA, you know what I mean? We'll be all right. We'll be all right, Matt. But and let us know your rates, because we might have to pay you for these ideas. On to the next. My name is William Freeman, and my team is St. Louis, XFL St. Louis. I live in the St. Louis metro area. Glad to have a football team after how the NFL treated our town. Hoping for the best. Now, let me just tell you this, AAF fans. You know, like when you don't finish your dinner and your mom was like, hey, there's kids starving in Africa. And actually, there's kids starving in this country, but we won't get into that. There's kids starving. You better finish your meal. Let me tell you something, AAF fans. You're burned by Charlie, Tom Dundon, and Jerry Fowler, or whatever his name is, I did one Google search on this Fowler guy, and it was like he was shady from the beginning. And now he just got indicted, allegedly. He did. For like fraud. So I did one Google search, and I could find that out. Anyway. AAF fan. Think about St. Louis fan. Before you cry about your league folding after 8 games. The greatest show on turf was in St. Louis. Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, the greatest Madden player ever. Or if you had Marshall Faulk and during those years on your fantasy football team, you basically won every time. You had Kurt Warner and Marshall Faulk, you won. Their team left twice. Twice they've had teams leave. So quit your belly aching about your AAF and your 8 games. And I feel for you. I feel for you, Alabama. I feel for you, Orlando Apollos. And I'm just trying to think of the name. San Antonio. Who were some other ones? I don't remember. I feel for you. But remember, the St. Louis football fan first. Anyway, going local with an undrafted player, and that is running back Demaria Crockett from the University of Missouri. He played in an up-tempo shotgun offense system that fits XFL's style of play. We will keep his name on the list, Demaria Crockett. I love all these names, man. I'm writing these names down because I want to track. We'll see if William is right. These are one of the guys that could be on an XFL roster. And finally, Oscar checking in. He says, hello, my name is Oscar. I was looking at your tweet. I'm from LA, so my team is LA Franchise, who will announce the coach GM in a bit. I like to be on the podcast if possible. Oscar, you're on the podcast right now. All you have to do is email us, podcast@allwrestling.com, and you're on. Or you can just create an MP3, a little audio clip of you talking. Just run your mouth about XFL stuff. Great feedback this week. Thank you for all the new fans. Thank you for everybody checking in on the show. Remember, you can you can email us if you want to be part of the show, podcast@xflnewshub.com. Very simple. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube. Just look up XFL News Hub. That's who we are. Leave us a review on iTunes, and we'll read it on the next show, please. That gets us the word out. And you can listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, TuneIn, whatever it is, and Stitcher. Great show. We got announcements next week. We have something in the works that's very cool that we're working on right now behind the scenes that I think you guys would like too. So much going on. More news this week. I'm sure there's going to be news next week. Thanks for listening. Mahalo. God bless. And I will see you all later.